Dave Sherwood, Sherwood Inspection Services, and we're here in New England right after a freak October snowstorm. And we have a client here who's had some ice damming, water coming into the interior of your exterior walls, and we're here to help, to assist and determine what's going on and what we can do to help give them information to stop this process. So let's meet our homeowner.
Through that window where the water came in and was going into the bedroom, leaking through down into the great room as well.
One of the things you'll notice is up in the area where the water was coming down, there is no gutter soffit area. Here you have an overhang. You've got a nice soffit vent here for air to flow up through, and up on top you've got a nice ridge vent that comes across. On this roof here, you don't have that. So what was happening is your heat was rising. It was causing the snow to melt. Once the snow melted, that's when you start getting the ice damming. As the snow and water came down, it froze when it reached the cold center and then backed up, causing the water to back up into the roof. Okay, so let's talk about ventilation for a moment. We've got soffit vents here, we've got a ridge vent up on top, and sometimes with the snowfall, you're going to get the ridge vent covered over. Look what we have here. When that covers over, you've lost part of your ventilation. Ventilation is extremely important in the attic. So let's go into the attic and let's talk about the ventilation and insulation more. So let's head to the attic now, and let's take a look at the effects that occur up in the attic area from a lack of insulation and ventilation. To start with, we first want to talk about our living space as being a closed envelope. Now that envelope exchanges air to the unfinished space. We want to make sure that we're conditioning this space and containing the heat and moisture here while still ventilating the attic space. The first thing we notice is that the attic door is uninsulated. We're losing a lot of heat from the living space to the attic in doing that. That creates moisture and heat up into the attic area. So you can see up here, right against the roof sheathing, we've got a discoloration, a darkening. That darkening is from moisture and heat getting locked up into that area. Over here we've got a bathroom vent fan. You can see it's going through a hose and venting out to the exterior. The problem is that hose is not insulated. Neither is the vent fan. Both of those producing heat and moisture up into the attic area. Now we look at the insulation. We can see the insulation is too low. Whenever it's down below the floor joist, or in this case the ceiling joist for down below, it causes moisture and heat to escape from the rooms down underneath. The next thing we have is we have some open areas in the ceiling. Those are chases, and those chases allow for heat to escape from the rooms below right up into the attic area. All of this combined creates a lot of heat up into the attic area that's getting trapped against the roof sheathing. That can cause moisture, decay, and mold to form. So we've been talking about the insulation in the attic. What we're referring to here is the insulation down that's matted down in this area that comes all the way over to the soffit area. In the soffit area, we really don't want insulation in that area. So we've been saying add insulation up over the ceiling joist here, but we don't want it down into the eaves. What that does is heat that space up, that then causes the heat to rise to your roof line, causing the ice to start to melt in that area, which then dams it up, pushes the water up under the roof and down through the roof, through the sheathing. That's the problem we've had here. So we want to correct that by pulling the insulation back away from the eaves down in this area, yet insulate this area here. Now when you pull the insulation away in the eaves, you can add something called permavents. They're styrofoam or plastic troughs that drop down in there so the insulation does not fall back into the soffit or eave area. The next thing we're looking at is these canned lights that we've been talking about. Now those are the recessed fixtures downstairs that produce a lot of heat up here into the attic. Both the lighting fixture itself and the fact that there's a transfer of heat from downstairs up through the lighting fixtures. So we're going to change that with a different type of light bulb that we're going to use that's going to gain a whole lot of efficiency and a whole lot of effectiveness to prevent that loss of heat up into the attic area. So we've got two types of vent windows that we're talking about. We've been talking a lot about insulation in this attic area, and once we've got that wrapped up, we want to get that temperature in the attic down to within 3 to 5 degrees of outside ambient temperature. So to do that, we've got vent windows in the gable ends, meaning the two ends of the house. Here's a gable end here that's got the louvers. The problem with the louvers, if you don't use proper screening, we get birds nesting in there and it blocks up our ventilation. The ventilation is critical when we use this method. So here we have a typical gable end vent window, which is a double hung window. Now this window, as you can see, is closed up, and that's because the people believe by closing it up it saves energy. But that's why we've done such a nice job of re-insulating this area. If you don't open these windows and put the proper louvers in, you're going to block the airflow through the attic. Gable end vents are a great way to ventilate from the gables. Soffit vents are opened up. Remember the insulation that we pulled back and put the permavents down in? Then we allow the air to flow through these gable ends to provide the necessary air movement in the attic space. So we're talking about ventilation, and one of the things that confuses a lot of people is planned ventilation versus arbitrary ventilation. What do I mean by that? Planned ventilation is when you plan the air pattern, when you have gable end vent windows and soffit vents, when you have soffit vents and ridge vent. That's planned as to where the air is going to move to. When you have unplanned ventilation, such as this whirly vent that's sitting on the roof, now you're going to start to get air swirling around inside because you've got gable end vents, you've got no soffit vents, and you've got air disturbances up in the attic. And that's going to trap the air and make it more stagnant than actually ventilating it out. So we want to make sure that we size the ventilation according to the square footage that you get and according to the roof angles that you have. And once we do that, then we're less likely to get roof sheathing that looks like this. And we're less likely to get the ice damming that caused this call in the beginning. Here we are downstairs looking up at the light fixtures that we saw the cans of in the attic. Now these light fixtures here produce a lot of heat that we talked about in the attic. So what we have to help with this are these EcoSmart lights. These EcoSmart lights have 35,000 hours to them, and this will produce virtual no heat into the attic space. This allows us to insulate around the cans and still give us the energy efficiency and the lighting that we need. So Lori, let's recap now. What we've said is that we're going to re-insulate the attic to protect the attic area from all the heat loss that was coming from the living space. So to do that, you're going to add insulation above the ceiling area in between the ceiling joists. In order to do that though, you've got your recessed fixtures that are there producing a lot of heat. So what we've said is you're going to take these EcoSmart LED lights and replace those with the existing lights you have. Then you can insulate around those cans, and this one's for you, so you can keep that one and know what you need to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
So from there, what we're going to do is you're going to insulate the attic area, pull the insulation back from the eaves, and install the permavents. After installing the permavents, then we need to open the ventilation up. So what you're going to do is close off the whirly vent to the roof to get direct ventilation to your gable ends and your eave area. Once you put in the new louvered windows on both gable ends, then that'll allow the air to move through freely. And then you'll be in better shape here at the house.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.